So we begin Na'aka, and like I said, we have an expertise in groaning. There's this sort of Jewish stereotype that we kind of give a krech, we give a groan. It's like a complaint. It's almost like a complaint, right? A moan or like, ugh, right? Like you imagine the two Muppets, Waldorf and Statler, the two cranky Jews who sit there in the balcony, but they're not really Jewish, right? We don't want to say they're Jewish, but we know they're Jewish, right? There's a whole write-up recently about Muppets, and the show in the 80s had all these stereotypes that evidently people are finding offensive. So as they unearthed them, every single stereotype in them was hitting in a different group. But Waldorf and Statler are the Jews, so they are the groaners. They are the Naka. Nakahu ma'dechsiv vayishma lokim et nakatam. And God heard their cries, their groans. What is a na'aka? So Rashi defines it, Mefarish Rashi, tza'akasam, their scream, which is what we spoke about last time. Venira de na'aka ain't a lashon tefillah be'ikra. Really, na'aka is not a regular kind of tefillah. El be'etzim lashon genicha v'tza'aka, but rather a language of genicha means to groan. We know that language from Mesechus Megillah when it talks about the shofar, genuche ganach. Genuche ganach is the sound of the shofar that makes the kvetchy sound. That's a shavarim called ganach. It's a akah and a cry, nirov yisurim, from your pain. It doesn't say they groaned to God, but rather God heard their groan. What is that exactly? It is a cry that comes from a place of, it's a sigh that a person screams when they're in distress, like someone who groans from back-breaking labor. Adam hanoek me'avodat perech, o tzarot merubot, o yisurim gidolim. Great pain, suffering. Even when you're alone, you don't have someone to cry with, to cry to. So this is an interesting line. This is not a typical tefillah. It is not a typical type of prayer. It is a type of noise and grunt you make even when you're on your own. Like, oh boy, I don't feel well, right? That kind of thing. But it's not something that you would do just because someone's listening. Afilu kishu yechidi. Even when you're on your own. In that sense, it's almost animalistic. It's by nature. Shadam shetzar lo me'od ne'anach v'ne'nak. The pasuk in Yechezkel implies this as well, where it says, "Ne'ekat chalal lefanav." This is a good pasuk. It says, "He will groan before him, the groans of the slain, the chalal." Chalal is a body that was killed in war. We learned from the word the Gemara derives, "Chalalu kecherev, cherevu kechalal." That just as a dead body defiles, metal that touches a dead body functions as a dead body, that conducts electricity, conducts trumas mace. And the word halal is used there to describe a dead body. Yet Chazal felt in that medrash that we opened up the whole sefer with that this is one of the expressions of prayer. It's a natural thing, and that it's a groan, a pain. Sorry, I'm just making a note. Nakahi davar TV. It's a natural thing. Pain. Yes, it's true. It's a groan, it's a pain, it's a grunt that you feel pain, you express that pain in a natural response, but you could channel that natural response towards God. This is really interesting. So here, Sa'aka was a type of pain scream. We talked about Sa'aka as being deeper than Shava because it was wordless, but all of those were tefillos. A Na'aka is not a tefillah. Na'aka is a human reaction to pain and suffering. The Rav points out, by the way, that even before this pasuk, that God hears their groans, Vayishma Elokim et na'akatam, they were so subhuman in their suffering that they didn't even exhibit the pain of a grunt. They couldn't even do that. There comes a point when you're so enslaved that you don't even express something called pain. Forget about channeling that pain in the mode of tefillah. But the experience of pain is the beginning of prayer, which is great. It means I'm davening all the time because everything always hurts me. It's wonderful. So, but that is a mode of prayer. And normally you don't need another person to hear that pain. It helps though. Oh, my ankle hurts, my head hurts. It helps when someone hears you say it. They probably find it annoying. But the answer is that God doesn't. Right? So that's an important piece. So we're now this is not the wordless scream. This is not a prayer bichlal. It's a human expression of the natural reaction to suffering that Chazal felt can be channeled in the mode of a tefillah. If you have pain, so you cry out whether or not you will to cry out, Shalom Ritzono. So it's true that when you cry out a wordless scream or when you cry out a shav'ah, it is a response to pain and suffering, but you have to intend to do so. You have to open your mouth and let out a scream. You have to open your heart and talk. Nach is not even wordless. It's almost like it's involuntary. It happens on its own. It's tefillah happening mamela.
Their costume all day, so she was walking into school. She was like, they made it like a whole big circus. Oh, sorry, Rabbi.
Take lots of pictures.
You're mute, Rabbi.
Was I the only one who was thrown off the call?
Yeah.
Couldn't hear you.
No, I was off too. I got thrown off and now I can't.
Now we
came
can.
back.
Oh.
Okay. All right, we're back.
Yeah.
Okay, so we see if you have pain, you start to cry out against your will, and you can't control it. We have all things that are in our physical and psychological makeup to protect us from danger, from harm. Our eyelashes protect dirt from coming into our eyes, right? Nose hairs prevent dirt and schmutz and disease coming into the nose. And we're so proud of them that we show them off in the Zoom era by putting the camera right under our chins. And we have physical, the Gemara actually talks about how earlobes are meant to be folded over to prevent Lashon Hara from coming in. And also when I get a haircut, I have large ears. The barber always has to fold them over so he doesn't chop my ear off. So, but we have things that are designed, the Bria, to protect us. And then there are spiritual protections. I saw a beautiful idea in one of the Sifrei Chasidus once, and you could do with it as you please, because it may make people uncomfortable a little bit. But it both inspires and makes me uncomfortable. That if you've ever you find someone that just in your presence, you don't like this person, and they upset you, and you don't know why. And partially it's because you're a spiteful, bad person. You just have hate in your heart. But part of it is because you're actually a good person. Part of it is because your mind and your heart are designed to protect you from things that harm you emotionally and psychologically. And there are people who, their personalities are there. Hashem needs different personalities in the world, right? We need political spectrum, and we need psychological spectrum, we need emotional spectrum in the world. And we do different kochos, rabos, v'chesronon, and their deficiencies. But in doing so, in filling God's world, he created different personalities so he can get the job done of bringing the Shekhinah down to the world. But in doing so, some of us are going to naturally be repulsed by others. It's the way it is. The way things sound, the way things look, the way things are presented, right? It just bothers us or doesn't. When you find yourself repelled by something or someone. So the Musar books would tell you, well, work on yourself, right? Which is true, right? Because obviously you're just, you're filled with jealousy or hatred or whatever. You just got to work on yourself. But part of it also is that there's a natural warning sign that comes up. This person's dangerous for me. Not necessarily that they're going to hurt you, but that maybe Oila Russia, the Shekhinah, it's true that having an evil neighbor is bad for you because they'll report you and then you're going to have to get a permit to do a simple job in the house and you'll be stuck without a kitchen for 5 weeks. But also, just drawing out of the hat, but also a bad neighbor can also take away your balance, your spiritual balance. And sometimes the Kodesh Baruch Hu sends you people that really, your warning signs, your signal, your antennas go up. Like on My Favorite Martian, they tell you stay away, right? And I don't want to be near this person. And sometimes it's okay to listen to that. If being around certain toxic personalities or things that are toxic for you are dangerous. Like, by the way, if you have diabetes, God forbid, so sugar is toxic. If you don't have diabetes, it may not be as toxic. So too, if you have a certain emotional makeup or a certain spiritual makeup, certain personalities that are actually beneficial for the world are toxic for you. And that's okay to listen to that and be sensitive to that and stay away. It doesn't make you a hateful person. So you have to be a little careful how you use that Torah. It's a dangerous Torah. But in the end, God creates a system in nature to protect you from harm, physical and emotional harm. Kach gam hatachuna azos. So too, this reaction, litzok be'ez tzara, to cry out in a time of need. So also, shalideze yichmu rachamein al hashomin beyichoshu lezaso. It's designed that you should cry out to God, and at that moment, you will be turned into a prayer. So the physical reaction that we feel pain and we grunt is all part of a mechanism to protect us physically and spiritually when we have a need. That's an amazing idea. It's an amazing idea. And someone says, don't kvetch. No, the kvetch is part of your defense system. It's the first line of reaching out to God when something's wrong. And that's why we Jews like to complain so much, because we're always davening. Right? It's a natural mechanism that you must experience, and it hopefully gets transmuted into a prayer. But in the depth of the matter, in the heart of hearts, every kvetch is really a tefillah. When you're missing something, or you're in pain. It's a cry to fill your deficiencies, to fill that which is you're missing. Not to let that moment pass. Not to say, well, okay, I don't have everything. Okay, I guess, oh shucks, I'll just go on. That you're supposed to experience a little bit of emptiness, so that way you long and crave and daven. And sometimes you don't even know why you're upset, right? You wake up, it's Monday morning, you're like, I'm just upset, I don't know why. And often I wake up and I think it's Monday, and therefore I'm upset, and I don't know why. The answer is, it's bringing you to good. It's bringing you to completion. Bori Olam Baruch Hu, the Creator has created it. Nimtza shekol tzakash v'olam. The deeper level of this, that every cry in the world, all screaming. Second from bottom, paragraph on 81. All screaming sh'olam mehusa mitit shipul shel tefillah. In truth, all of it is part of prayer. And just as he put things in our body to fight disease, you start to sweat and get fever when you're sick. Your body is fighting off disease. It doesn't feel good to have fever. And everyone keeps saying, well, you get that shot and you get all sick, right? It's good for you. It's supposed to feel good for you. That's what they're telling you because they're turning you into a zombie. But in reality, it's supposed to, it's the body turning on. It's the body working. I remember when I exercised one time for the first time in like years. I went to play some tennis or racquetball, whatever it was. I was playing, and I'm like, what is this? I'm dying. And they're like, no, you're coming alive. Right? This is the first time you've ever moved. You're behind in the last how many years? You've been sitting around studying books, and now you're actually moving. And it hurts. And the body is the muscles are stretching, and your lungs are expanding, and it's great. So the body has these things that tell you that it's a prayer, it's a tefillah, it's a self-defense mechanism. And then when you cry, God says, I'm going to come help him out. Because all cries really are to God.
Rabbi, is this Rabbi saying then that even if you're not using your suffering as a prayer, just if you are doing one of these groaning to yourself, Hashem accepts it as a prayer?
That's right. That's exactly what he's saying. Ani sevilasi, says David HaMelech. I am prayer. My existence is a tefillah to Hashem. Everything I'm doing. When I think about it on a very small level. A child is eating an ice cream cone and the worst thing that could ever happen in the world happens is they order that horrible Superman flavor that you would never want to finish. No, the worst thing that could ever happen is the cone falls off onto the ground and the tears begin. And of course, any caring adult would say, oh, don't worry, I'll buy you new ice cream. Of course, the most painful thing in the world. They didn't have to say it. They don't have to ask. What kind of monster would say, sorry, you've lost your chance? That's it. Time to go home and have some green beans. No. You would buy the new ice cream. It's a terrible thing. And any ice cream shop owner would say, okay, it dropped off. I'll give you a new scoop. It's a tefillah. It's a tefillah. It doesn't need words. And not because they're asked. So with the wordless scream, you don't have to say the words you have to have in mind. Here, it's the exhibition of pain, the experience of the negative stimuli that itself provoke a relationship with God. That is a tefillah. What is it like? He used to say about Baruch Ber Leibovitz that when he was a small child, his father would give him a patch for things that he did when he acted in a childish way. And then he would cry. He's crying, he'd get up, he'd take the siddur, he'd take his pal mincha, and he'd start to daven mincha while he's crying. And his father would say to him, why are you davening right now? Either way, I'm crying, and not so tefillah. I might as well utilize this cry for tefillah. And by the way, I've called JCFS on you, and they're taking you away. No, that is okay. Vehu nifla lemizbonen, and it's wondrous for one who focuses on this practice. Hanhagat nifla, to transmute all pain and tears into tefillah. Don't let a good complaint go for naught. There's a joke that in institutions that you have a complaint box with an empty bottom, just let it drop down to the garbage can, put it above the garbage can, right? Shira, your whole screen just went dark all of a sudden, like you went into witness relocation program. That was cool. Different settings.
Okay, I'll fix it, I think.
No, now we got you. Now we see you. But it was cool. It was like a silhouette. It was a silhouette, and I think it's a video setting, but it was cool. It was like witness relocation. All right, you got to make the voice muffled also. So So the so nifla lisboning, it's wondrous. A person has to try. Don't let a good fetch go to waste. Sheharei, the MS, in truth, chaval al davar kol kach nifla k'motzaka shetetzi l'rek. It's a shame, chaval, that a good cry should be for naught. Im chavna l'shamayim. If you could just focus it towards heavens. Ein lecha davar, there is nothing that is tov mimena, nothing more precious from it. Shemem hadmot v'anachot, because in tears and kvetches and tivit that are natural, both aleinu be'al ba'krachenu, come to us against our will. Be'ez tzara, in a time of difficulty, hema ya'alomim u'margolios yikar ma'od. They are precious gems, diamonds and jewels. Bottom of page 82 on the top section. Kama min ha'shtut hul abeid avanim yikarot niflot elu below koto. Who in the right mind would throw out precious jewels? Maseh l'dmot, yikarot, to take precious tears. Mipaz li balea badama, that are forged from gold, and would let them fall on the ground. What a line. This is like the best line in Sefer. Who would let precious jewels and gold and silver fall on the ground and be absorbed into the dirt rather than ascend to heaven? Right? Who would dare waste a good tear? What is saying Chazal in Brachos? Shearim BeTefila ninalu, Shearim dima lo ninalu. The gates of prayer sometimes are locked, but the gates of tears are never locked. And that's what we say at Ne'ilah. Simcha b'noad, right? B'noad chali liot. That you, sometimes b'noad chali liot, that you place the tears in your flask, you hold on to them. When a person is in pain and they cry out, the knockout, try to sanctify, try to dedicate those tears, try to transmute them. If you're going to cry, you might as well not waste it. Right? It's like energy. It's like, you want to mock the wind turbines, especially when Texas freezes over, fine, mock them all you want. But if you have them in addition to other power, at least it's going to produce something. It's some power, right? Wind is coming through, you might as well use it. There's sun coming in, you might as well put a panel on your roof. There's a tear coming out of your face. You might as well use it. Don't let it fall into the dirt. Because all pain and suffering is ultimately a longing. This is also a profound line. You know why the ice cream is falling? Because the temple is destroyed. Right? All pain in the world is a longing for the Shekhinah in your life. All that which is wrong is really ultimately a sense that God is missing a little bit and you need him in your life. At the very rudimentary level. This is programming on a binary level. This is I've spoken about this in the past. These are the zeros and ones. It's the raw code that doesn't make sense to anyone but the very high level programmer who wrote the programs that upon which the codes of the interface which we exchange are based upon. But someone understands those zeros and ones, and that's God. Someone makes sense of all of that. You and I, we look at the screen, we see the box, we click X, check, right? We interact on the screen, but behind that are layers and layers of interpretation. And somewhere beneath that is a code that someone understood. And that's what a na'aka is. Na'aka is that binary code. It means something. You should try. The very best. Hanavon, one who understands. To engage in this regularly. For everything that happens to you, Every time, right, you're sick, God forbid, or something happens. Asan, olo tova, shamua, or bad news. Shekofetz halev, jump up. Umid no eabetzocho, like that kid who turned his pain, his feeling of disappointing his father, maybe he was upset, right? Felt judged harshly, and he turned that into a mincha. He said, "Ben kach ben kach I'm davening." It's all tefillah. Minoneh besocho vanacha nifletet mipiv, and let it come out into a shiver aside to leave your lips. Sheichave miyad hergish zeh klape ma'ala tefillah b'kasha. Right away, have a feeling, an emotion, tefillah, and a bakasha request. Shechaval me'od, because what a shame it would be levazveis otzrot ikarim. What a shame it would be to waste precious treasures. Kehergish eitzar bakasha l'tova asher yicholim likavea u'fa'er kithro shemelech hamlachim, which could adorn the crown of the king, or could drop down in the sand, and then someone with a metal detector will find it later and waste it. Moshamru Chazal, as Chazal say, Al Tefilot Beis Yisrael, Aleinu Rak Lishtadol Chavnam L'Makom HaNachon Ba'ashrei Mitzvah. Because Chazal say everything is done with prayers. All we have to do is try to direct the prayers to the proper place. And fortunate is someone who is accustomed to doing this. Now, before we go on, end the chapter, which is the end of Nakal, which to me it gets better and better. This is by far my favorite chapter so far. But I want to look at the footnote. There was a footnote that he had over here. Haggah. Let's read this together. It's on page 82 in the English. Lamito Shadar, everyone see where we are? Okay.
Yes.
Lamito Shadar.
In the gray area, right?
Gray box, yeah, on page 82, yeah. In truth, Kalul Inyan Zeh B'Harbe Avodos. This is not just about prayer. This is about many disciplines, many areas of Avodas Hashem. Shema'asim Rabim Yachol Adam Bim'at Kevana U'Machshava La'afcham Minyanim Pshutim V'Tivim Pulot Dod Niskavu. We could transform many little things into great and lofty deeds. Dugma Ladavar, let's give an example. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. The world is built upon kindness. That pasuk, by the way, so I don't know if anyone here speaks Russian, but evidently the word Yibana is not a good word in Russia. I didn't know that. So when they used to go, the guys used to go and go to YUSSR, and they bring chizuk and svarim and dance and teach Torah in former Soviet Union. When things started to open up a little bit, so they would say, "Let's teach a song, kids," and they'd go, "Okay, repeat after me, everyone." And they'd say Yibaneh. So that was when Yibaneh basically was big. And everyone would say, "What? Yibaneh. Beis HaMikdash, Yibaneh, Yibaneh, Yibaneh." And all of a sudden, like mothers are like diving for their children's ears to cover up their ear. You could imagine the worst obscenities being screamed over and over again. So that happened. Also, you don't celebrate the holiday of Sukkot in Russia. I found out the hard way. So when I was in Ukraine, it said we went to the Chesed, the Merkaz Chesed there, where everyone distributes money and different things for the poor in the Jewish community. It said on the wall, Olam Chesed Bana. They took the yud out. And I was looking like, that's not the pasuk. But I realized they didn't want to write the real pasuk. And it took me a minute to figure out why they did that. Anyway, so Olam Chesed Yibaneh. The world is built upon Chesed. Ruba de Alma, that aside had nothing to do with anything, just trying to keep you guys entertained. Sorry. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Ruba de Alma she'oskim v'derech eretz haparnas asam. Most of the world engages in activities to support themselves financially. Rov pulosehem chesed heim. Most of their actions are acts of kindness. Imabriot, with the creatures. Zeh mechalek lechem v'chalal b'chanuso. This one distributes bread and milk in their store. V'zeh oseh begadim l'halbish anashim. And this one makes clothing for people to wear. V'hinei ma'acher she'oseh zot parnasaso. Once you're doing your job for financial needs, ein v'zeh mitzvah l'maisim heim v'etzem b'liv erech. Then it's not just you're doing it to support yourself. It's not a mitzvah per se. And these deeds then essentially lack their value. But if you think about what you're doing a little bit, and you focus on your actions, that all of your actions are really, what are they doing? Your business is in truth a chesed. Because when I can work, I can support people. Myself, my family, my friends, tzedakah, school tuition, shul dues, but I can help other people out. And I'm doing this because I care for other people. You just elevated your job from a job to an exalted calling. I think it would behoove a lot in the yeshiva world to read this and to realize that working is not a reluctant reality of a person who otherwise wants to sit and learn. But working itself is an exalted activity. Maharal writes this in the beginning of his Derech Chaim, on Pirkei Avos, that when we work with our hands, we create. We are like Hashem. I always love the very first generations after Adam. You see, this one created a flute, and this one created a tool, and everyone was doing like different types of innovations that were changing the world.